Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. Alien Admiral's final transmission, we outnumbered them 1001. And lost. Admiral Krall stood on the command bridge of the massive flagship, Dominion, his forearms clasped behind his back as he gazed at the holographic display of Earth's solar system. The blue-green planet seemed so small, so insignificant, against the backdrop of space, just another world to add to the growing Vex Empire. "Admiral, the fleet is assembled and awaiting your orders," said Officer Mech, approaching with a data tablet. "All 5,000 warships report combat readiness at optimal levels." Krall's scaled skin rippled with satisfaction. The Vex Armada was the largest military force ever assembled in the known galaxy, 5,000 warships, each carrying hundreds of fighter craft and thousands of ground troops, a force so massive it blotted out stars when gathered together. "And what of the humans?" Krall asked, his voice deep and gravelly. Mech swiped across the tablet, bringing up intelligence reports. "Primitive, Admiral. Their most advanced ships number fewer than 50, their weapons are basic energy and projectile types, nothing that can penetrate our shields, and physically, they are weak. No natural armor, limited strength, poor sensory capabilities." Krall nodded. It was as he expected. The conquest of Earth would be simple, quick, and add yet another resource-rich world to the Empire. Emperor Vox would be pleased. "Summon the command staff," Krall ordered. Within minutes, 20 senior officers gathered in the war room adjacent to the bridge. Maps and tactical displays covered the walls, showcasing every detail of Earth's defenses. Krall entered last, his tall frame caused the others to straighten to attention. Officers of the glorious Vex armed assembled as Krall began pacing slowly around the central table. "Today, we begin our conquest of the human world called Earth. Our intelligence shows they are technologically inferior and physically weak. We outnumber their space forces 100 to 1. The officers clicked their mandibles in approval, a sound like rattling stones that echoed through the room. "This will be my 18th campaign," Krall continued. "And like the 17 before it, it will end in complete victory." Officer Tark, head of ground forces, raised a clawed hand. "Admiral, what resistance can we expect on the surface?" he asked. "Minimal," Krall replied confidently. "Humans have divided their world into separate territories, they call them nations. They cannot even unite among themselves. They will fall quickly." The meeting continued for an hour as Krall outlined the invasion plan. First, they would eliminate Earth's orbital defenses, then, they would establish control over key strategic locations, finally, they would accept Earth's surrender, or begin the systematic elimination of resistance centers. As the officers filed out, Mech remained behind. "Something troubles you, Officer Mech?" Krall asked, noticing his second-in-command's hesitation. "Admiral, with all due respect, I reviewed some additional cultural data on humans. There are inconsistencies that concern me." Krall waved a dismissive hand. "Explain." "Their history is filled with warfare, Admiral. Despite their physical limitations, they have adapted and overcome challenges repeatedly. They seem to thrive in conflict." Krall laughed, a harsh sound, rarely heard from the stoic Admiral. "All species fight, Mech. It is the way of the universe, but none fight like the Vex. None conquer like the Vex, of course." "Admiral Mech," said the officer respectfully, lowering his head, "I simply thought it worth noting." "Noted. Now return to your station. We enter the outer solar system in 6 hours." After Mech left, Krall moved to his private chamber. The room was sparse by Vex standards, just a sleep platform, a meditation area, and a wall of campaign trophies. He looked at the collection of symbols taken from conquered worlds, 17 different civilizations, 17 victories. Earth would be the 18th. Krall settled onto his meditation platform and closed his 3 eyes, reflecting on his rise through the ranks. Born to a lower caste family on the Vex home world, he had fought and clawed his way up through the military hierarchy. His first notable victory came as a young captain when he crushed the rebellion on mining colony ZT-12, which earned him command of a destroyer, then a battle group, and finally, after the successful conquest of the Tory Federation, command of the entire armada. Emperor Vox had personally pinned the imperial medal on Kroll's chest and whispered, "Bring me more worlds." And each campaign had been more glorious than the last. The Vex Empire now spanned 3 galactic quadrants, with billions of subjugated beings working to enrich the homeland. A soft chime broke Kroll from his meditation. Amalkame's voice, he thought, as the communication system spoke, "We have entered the solar system. Long-range sensors detect movement near the gas giant they call Jupiter, human ships." Kroll asked, rising swiftly, "Yes, Admiral. Small patrol craft. They appear to be monitoring our approach." "Let them watch," Kroll said with satisfaction. "Let them tremble as they see the might of the Vex Armada bearing down on them." Kroll returned to the bridge, where the crew worked with quiet efficiency. The massive view screen showed the Armada stretching out before them, thousands of ships moving in perfect formation. The sight never failed to fill Kroll with pride. "Time to human home world?" he asked. "At current speed, 3 Earth days, Admiral," replied the navigation officer. "Increase to battle speed," Kroll ordered. "I want to reach their moon in 2 days." "Admiral," objected Mech, quietly, accelerating, "this will spread our formation and reduce our defensive capabilities if we encounter resistance." Kroll fixed his second-in-command with a hard stare. "What resistance, Mech? Their few ships are no match for even one of our destroyer groups, and I want this conquest completed quickly." Emperor Vox grows impatient for results. "Yes, Admiral," Mech said, turning to relay the orders. The great engines of the Armada roared to life, pushing the massive fleet faster toward the inner solar system. As they passed the orbit of Saturn, long-range sensors detected more human ships gathering near Mars. "They appear to be assembling a defensive force," the sensor officer reported. Kroll studied the tactical display with amusement. The humans had gathered perhaps 40 ships in total, small, lightly armed vessels that looked fragile compared to the massive Vex warships. "They intend to fight," Kroll said, unable to hide his surprise. "With such inferior numbers and technology, perhaps they hope to negotiate," suggested Mech. Kroll shook his head. "The Vex do not negotiate, we conquer." He turned to his communications officer. "Prepare a message to the humans. Tell them resistance is futile, tell them the Vex Armada has never known defeat, tell them their only hope for survival is immediate and unconditional surrender." As the message was transmitted toward Earth, Kroll felt a strange sensation he hadn't experienced in many years, anticipation. Not for the battle itself, which would surely be brief and one-sided, but for what would come after, another victory, another world for the Empire, another trophy for his wall. The glory of the Vex would soon shine on Earth. On the bridge of the Earth Defense Force flagship, Defiant, tension reigned. Captain Tom Reed leaned over the tactical display, studying the massive alien fleet approaching Mars orbit. His weathered face, marked by 20 years of military service, remained calm despite the odds they faced. 5,000 ships, muttered Lieutenant Hill, the tactical officer. "We're looking at a 100-to-1 disadvantage, Captain." Reed straightened up and looked around at his crew, 50 men and women, the best Earth had to offer, all watching him for guidance. Beyond the Defiant, only 49 other combat-ready vessels stood between Earth and the alien Armada. "Numbers aren't everything," Reed said firmly. "We've studied the transmissions from the outer colonies. These Vex rely on overwhelming force and standard tactics, they've never faced a desperate humanity." Reed turned to his communications officer. "Patch me through to all EDF vessels." When the channel opened, Reed spoke clearly and confidently, "This is Captain Reed. By now, you've all seen what we're up against. The enemy outnumbers us 100-to-1, they've conquered 17 systems before reaching us. They expect us to surrender, or be crushed." He paused, looking at the determined faces of his bridge crew. "But they don't know," humans, we don't go quietly, we don't follow the rules when our backs are against the wall. Fleet Command has authorized Operation Hornet's Nest. Break into your assigned groups, hit them fast, hit them where they don't expect it. Make them pay for every inch toward Earth. Reed continued, the Earth fleet is split into 10 battle groups of 5 ships each, tiny compared to the wall of alien vessels approaching. Commanding Alpha Group, which would make first contact with the Vex, Reed ordered, all ships, battle stations. Activate stealth systems and prepare for microjump on my mark. The 5 ships of Alpha Group engaged their experimental stealth technology, becoming nearly invisible to standard sensors. Reed had studied the Vex sensor capabilities from data gathered by the outer colonies before they fell, he knew the limitations. Jump now, he commanded. In an instant, the 5 Earth vessels disappeared from their position and reappeared at the very edge of the approaching Vex fleet, targeting the ships that appeared to be scouts. On the bridge of the Dominion, Admiral Krall received the human response to his surrender demand. It wasn't what he expected. They've refused, the communications officer reported. The message simply says, humans don't surrender. Krall made a dismissive gesture. Their choice is made, they will learn what happens to those who defy the Vex Empire. The sensor officer suddenly called out, Admiral, small energy signatures detected on our right flank, 5 vessels have appeared near Scout Group 7. Krall turned to the tactical display. Human ships, how did they get there without detection? Unknown, Admiral. They were not there 3 seconds ago. Krall studied the readings with growing interest. What are they doing? They appear to be attacking our scout vessels, the sensor officer replied. Krall felt a flash of irritation. The humans were employing some kind of surprise tactic, but it would make no difference to the outcome. Destroy them, he ordered simply. 3 Vex destroyers broke formation and moved to intercept the human vessels. However, as they approached, the Earth ships executed another microjump, disappearing from sensors. Where did they go? Krall demanded. Scanning, they've reappeared behind our interceptors, the Admiral continued. They're targeting the destroyer's engine systems with precision weapons. Krall watched in disbelief as one of his destroyers reported critical engine failure. The humans were using small, focused attacks against vulnerable systems rather than engaging in direct combat. This is not standard military doctrine, Krall said mostly to himself. What are they trying to accomplish? Admiral, Mech said quietly, they're testing our response patterns. Each attack tests a different aspect of our defenses. Krall considered this. To what end? They must know they cannot win. Perhaps winning means something different to them, Mech suggested. Not conquest, but survival. A new alert sounded on the bridge. Admiral, we're detecting unusual energy readings from the 4th planet, reported the science officer. The humans call it Mars. Explain. Krall demanded, it appears they've placed some kind of weapons platform on several of Mars' moons, they're powering up now. Krall studied the readings. Target those platforms with a full barrier. The Vex fleet fired massive energy weapons toward Mars' moons, but as the beams approached, something unexpected happened. The human ships that had been harassing their flanks suddenly executed synchronized jumps to positions between the Vex fleet and Mars. They projected some kind of energy field that redirected the Vex weapons' fire back toward the fleet. 3 Vex cruisers took direct hits from their own weapons for the first time. Krall felt a flicker of unease. How did they do that? Our weapon signatures should be impossible to redirect. Mech stepped closer to the display. Admiral, I believe they've been studying Vex technology, perhaps from wreckage left in the outer systems we conquered. Impossible, Krall said flatly. Our technology is too advanced for them to understand so quickly. Yet the evidence was before him. Somehow, these primitive humans had analyzed Vex weapon systems and developed countermeasures. The human vessels disappeared again, executing another jump. The bridge fell silent as everyone waited for their next move. Admiral, said the communications officer, we're receiving a transmission from one of the human ships. Put it through, Krall ordered. A human face appeared on the screen. Captain Reed looked directly at Krall with steady eyes. Admiral of the Vex Fleet, I am Captain Tom Reed of the Earth Defense Force. Consider this a demonstration of what you'll face if you continue toward Earth. We may be outnumbered, but we're fighting for our home. Every mile you advance will cost you dearly. Think carefully about whether Earth is worth the price you'll pay, the transmission declared before cutting off. Krall stood motionless for a moment, then turned to Mech. They think they can intimidate the Vex Armada with parlor tricks and threats. Admiral Mech said carefully, we should consider altering our standard approach. These humans are unpredictable, replied Mech. Krall's 3 eyes narrowed. We continue as planned. Move the fleet forward in full combat formation. Let's see how these humans handle the full might of the Vex Armada. As the massive fleet advanced toward Mars, Krall couldn't completely shake the feeling that something about this conquest would be different from the others. These humans fought unlike any species he had encountered before, but it wouldn't matter, no one defeated the Vex armed. No one. The Vex Armada moved through the space between Mars and Earth like a massive dark cloud. Admiral Krall stood on the bridge of the Dominion, watching as the human forces seemingly retreated from their positions around Mars. They abandoned their outer defenses, Krall observed with satisfaction. Perhaps they now understand the futility of resistance. Officer Mech studied the tactical display with concern. Admiral, I find this withdrawal troubling. The humans have shown themselves to be clever. This may be another tactic. Krall made a dismissive gesture with one of his 4 arms. Or it may simply be that they realized their position was hopeless. Continue advance as planned. The massive Vex fleet pushed forward, following standard invasion protocol. The main battle groups formed a spearhead with support vessels and carriers protected in the center of the formation, while scout ships ranged ahead, watching for signs of human resistance. We will reach Earth, the tactical display showed. The Earth fleet was no longer separated into small groups but now moving in a coordinated attack pattern. They targeted the Vex ships affected by the electromagnetic dust, firing precision weapons at engine sections and weapons arrays. Return fire, Krall ordered. All operational ships, protect the disabled vessels. The still functioning Vex ships tried to organize a defense, but the human vessels moved with unexpected speed and agility, darting between the larger alien warships and continuing their precise attacks. On the main view screen, Krall watched in growing alarm as a human ship approached one of his disabled cruisers. Instead of destroying it, the humans attached themselves to the hull. What are they doing? He demanded. It appears to be a boarding action, the tactical officer replied, sounding confused. They're cutting through the hull. Boarding, they dare to board Vex ships. Krall could hardly believe it, such tactics were unheard of in modern space warfare. Over the next hour, the situation deteriorated rapidly. The humans had boarded 7 disabled Vex vessels. Shortly after each boarding, the ship systems came back online, but now they were turning their weapons against their own fleet. They were capturing our ships and using them against us. Krall roared in disbelief, and Mech's expression was grim. They must have figured out how to bypass our security protocols. This suggests an understanding of our technology that should be impossible for such a primitive species. A priority communication came through from one of the captured vessels. A human face appeared on screen, a female with short gray hair and intense eyes. This is Commander Jane Stone of Earth Defense Force Special Operations. Thanks for the generous donation to our fleet, Admiral. Your ships are quite impressive, though we've already found several ways to improve them. The transmission cut off abruptly. Improve them? Krall repeated in a barely audible whisper. A cold feeling spread through him as he realized the implications. Somehow, these humans were not just using Vex technology, they were understanding it, adapting it, and enhancing it. Admiral, said Mech urgently, we must withdraw and regroup. We've lost almost 500 ships now, either disabled or captured. This is no longer a simple conquest. For the first time in his long military career, Krall considered retreat. The thought was so alien to him that he physically recoiled from it. No, he said firmly. The Vex Armada does not retreat. We still outnumber them greatly. Form all operational ships into defensive spheres. Launch all fighter craft, we will crush this resistance with overwhelming force. Mech looked as though he wanted to object but instead nodded and turned to relay the orders. As the Vex fleet reorganized, the humans pulled back, taking their captured ships with them. The lull in battle gave Krall time to assess the damage. Nearly 10% of his armada was now either disabled or in enemy hands. It was an unprecedented loss for the Vex, who typically conquered worlds with minimal casualties. Admiral, said the communications officer, we're receiving a transmission from Earth. The main screen lit up with the image of Captain Reed. Behind him stood Commander Stone and several other humans in military uniforms. Admiral Kroll, Reed said calmly, I hope we have your attention now. We recovered data cores from your disabled ships. We know about your 17 previous conquests. We know how you operate your standard tactics, your technical specifications, your weaknesses. Krall stared at the human with growing unease. Admiral Reed continued, the difference between us is simple. You conquer, we survive. You follow protocols, we adapt. You rely on superiority, we embrace inferiority and find ways to turn it into strength. You still outnumber us, but numbers aren't everything, as you're starting to learn. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge of the Dominion in silence. Krall turned to look at his officers for the first time. He saw doubt in their eyes. They had never experienced such losses, such unexpected resistance. Prepare all remaining ships for full attack, he ordered, his voice harsher than usual. Launch all reserve fighters. We will push through to Earth immediately and end this resistance at its source. As the orders went out, Krall moved to a private communication console and opened a secure channel to the Vex home world for the first time in his career. He considered requesting reinforcements. The thought filled him with shame but also with something else, a feeling so unfamiliar that it took him several moments to identify it, fear. Deep beneath Earth's surface, the command center buzzed with activity. Holographic displays showed the positions of the Vex fleet and Earth's defensive forces. Captain Reed and Commander Stone stood side by side, watching as the alien armada regrouped after their ambush in the asteroid field. They're forming a classic hammer-and-anvil formation, Reed observed. Krall is going to throw everything at us now. Stone nodded, her face illuminated by the blue glow of the tactical display. He's predictable. Vex military doctrine doesn't account for major losses, their only response to setbacks is to increase force. A young officer approached with a data tablet. Captain, we've finished analyzing the biological samples retrieved from the captured Vex ships. Reed took the tablet and studied it with Stone looking over his shoulder. This is exactly what we needed. Get this to Dr. Miller immediately, he ordered as the officer hurried away. Stone turned to Reed. Will it be ready in time? It has to be, Reed replied grimly. We've bloodied their nose, but they still have thousands of ships. We need every advantage we can get. The main screen lit up with an incoming transmission. General Ward, the overall commander of Earth's military forces, appears on screen. Captain Reed, Commander Stone, the President has approved Operation Sunburn. You have full authorization to deploy all special weapons. Reed straightened. Thank you, General. We'll make it count. After the transmission ended, Reed turned to his communications officer. Signal all Earth Defense Force ships, execute Phase 2. On the bridge of the Dominion, Admiral Krall watched as his reorganized fleet moved toward Earth in a massive formation designed to overwhelm any defense. Nearly 4,000 ships remained under his command, still an overwhelming force despite the unexpected losses. All ships, report ready, said the tactical officer. Fighter squadrons launched and in attack position. Krall nodded. Commence the attack. Full speed ahead. The massive Vex fleet surged forward, thousands of ships moving as one unstoppable force, while smaller fighter craft swarmed ahead like a cloud of deadly insects. Human vessels detected, reported the sensor officer. They appear to be forming a defensive line between us and their planet. Kroll studied the tactical display. The humans have arranged their 50 original ships, plus the 7 captured Vex vessels, in a loose formation near Earth's moon. They think they can stop us with so few ships. Kroll laughed harshly. Their bravery is admirable, but foolish. Officer Mech studied the display with concern. Admiral, their formation seems designed to draw us in. I recommend caution. Caution, Kroll turned to his second-in-command. We outnumber them nearly 80-1. Even after our losses, we will crush them with overwhelming force. The Vex fleet continued its advance. The distance to the human defensive line rapidly closed. Energy signatures detected from the human vessels, called the sensor officer. They appear to be preparing to fire. Raise all shields, Kroll ordered calmly. Their weapons cannot penetrate our. He never finished the sentence as the human ships fired. But what emerged from their weapons wasn't the energy beams or missiles the Vex expected. Instead, they released clouds of glittering particles that spread out rapidly, engulfing hundreds of Vex ships in seconds. What is this? Kroll demanded as alarms began to sound across the bridge. Unknown substance, replied the science officer, frantically. It's penetrating our hull sensors, targeting our life support systems. Reports flooded in from throughout the fleet. The mysterious substance was somehow getting through Vex shields and hull plating, causing crew members to collapse at their stations. It wasn't killing them, but rendering them unconscious or severely disoriented. It's a biological agent, Mech realized aloud, specifically designed to affect Vex physiology. Kroll stared in shock at the tactical display as hundreds of his ships began drifting out of formation, their crews incapacitated. How could they know our biology so precisely, he wondered. The captured ships, Mech said grimly, must have studied our people as well as our technology. Kroll felt a cold rage building inside him. These humans are fighting without honor, without following the established rules of warfare. They use trickery and target our weaknesses instead of meeting strength with strength. Launch all remaining reserves, every ship we have. I want that defensive line broken now. The remaining Vex ships that hadn't been affected by the biological agent surged forward, firing their massive energy weapons at the human fleet. Several Earth vessels took direct hits, exploding in brilliant flashes. For a moment, Kroll felt the tide turning back in his favor. But then something unexpected happened again. Admiral, we're detecting numerous small craft launching from the Earth's surface, reported the sensor officer. The tactical display showed hundreds of tiny vessels, barely large enough for a single pilot, rising from the planet below. What are those? Kroll demanded. The bridge of the Dominion was in chaos, warning alarms blared as damage reports flooded in from all sections of the massive flagship. The view screen showed a scene that Admiral Kroll had never imagined possible, the once mighty Vex armada in disarray, with hundreds of ships disabled, captured, or actively fighting against their former comrades. Admiral, called the tactical officer with a strained voice, we've lost contact with the entire third battle group. The humans have somehow taken control of our command frequencies. Kroll stared at the tactical display in disbelief. In just 6 hours of battle, his overwhelming advantage had been cut in half. Nearly 2,000 Vex ships were now either disabled or under human control. The remaining vessels were surrounded, caught in a web of smaller, faster human craft that darted in and out of their formation, causing maximum disruption. This cannot be happening, Kroll muttered more to himself than to his officers. We outnumbered them 100-1. Officer Mech approached cautiously. Admiral, we've received a communication from the flagship of our second battle group, they've been boarded. Commander Jax is requesting permission to activate self-destruct protocols. Kroll's head snapped up. Denied. No Vex vessel has ever self-destructed to avoid capture, it is against all protocols. Admiral Mech, the officer added.